Hey guys, welcome back to Furniture Flipping Teacher. If you're new here, my name is Lauren and I am a full-time kindergarten teacher who also flips furniture on the side. And I have actually just paid off my entire student loan debt from flipping furniture. Now we here at FFT are on a mission and a journey to help other teachers in the same situation pay off their student loan debt. And in today's video, we are going to be flipping this dresser. It is a nice mid-century style piece. It's very heavy, but I'm excited because I'm actually going to be utilizing some new paint, Melange paint in the color Gator. So yep, that's right, I'm going crazy with the color, but I have a feeling that it's going to turn out awesome. So let's get started by removing all of the hardware. All right, so I'm gonna actually be keeping this hardware and sprucing it up a little bit. So we're gonna just keep it here in this bin. And this is kind of right in my way of removing this piece of hardware. Looks like there's little joint thingies that go in there, but how do I get it out? Interesting. I don't know how I can get that out because the screw is in there. So if you notice, there is some ugly flower designs in the top drawers, and those are pretty dated. And I do not like the way that they look, so I am going to be sanding that down and then putting some wood filler in there to smooth it out and make it a flat surface. And then that will cover up that design. I like the rest of the designs, but those flowers are just, no. Also, I forgot to mention, I got this piece on Facebook Marketplace for $80, and for the shape that it's in, I wasn't too worried about paying $80 for it because I think once it's all finished, it's gonna go for a pretty good profit. All right, now it's time to clean. All right, I'm gonna be using, and this is a degreaser. It will fight all of the dirt and grime and dust. Fairly clean condition, but there's been oils and greases over the years, so we just need to get all that off. This is one of the most important steps in painting furniture. Do not skip the cleaning step. I promise you that paint will just get dirty and not adhere well, so you do not want to skip that step of cleaning off your piece. Okay, so that was the yucky water. That was the first clean, and now I'm gonna take a clean rag with some clean water and give everything a rinse, and it will still be dirty. So just wanna make sure to get all that cleaner off though, and then any last minute dirt that I missed the first time. All right, our next step is to start some sanding, and I am just gonna do a scuff sand around everything, and the reason being is because this top here is like a laminate top, so it's not wood, so I need to give it some texture. And then I'm going to put the wood filler in the drawers. We'll let that dry before we do some priming. So I'm going to start with these 3 drawers and use 100 grit because I'm trying to sand this down as flat as possible, and then I'll put the wood filler on so that can dry before I start sanding everything else. Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm going to be using my Surf Prep sander because this is going to fit perfectly right in that gap. So I'm going to be using the rectangle. Okay, that was a little tougher than I thought because the sander didn't quite fit in there like I wanted it to, but we are ready to put on the wood filler so that can start drying. So I'm going to use the Min Wax wood filler, just looks like that, and I'm going to take a putty knife and shove the wood filler into the design. I try to use my putty knife, but we all know our fingers work the best. So I'm just gonna shove that in to the design and cover everything. Once that dries hard in a couple hours, we'll be able to sand it down smooth. That should do it for the wood filler. We're gonna let that dry for a little while in the sun, and hopefully it doesn't take too long, but should take about 1 to 2 hours. And then in the meantime, I'm gonna continue sanding the rest of it. All right, sanding is finished. So we are going to wipe away all of the dust and then get to priming. It's time to prime. So I'm gonna line my tray with some foil so that it's easier cleanup. This foil I just got at the Dollar Tree, so doesn't have to be expensive. Then all you gotta do is take the foil off and cleanup is finished. So for primer, I'm gonna be using the Bin shellac-based primer because it is a wooden dresser and I don't want any of that stain popping through. And since I'm gonna be going green on this piece, I asked if they could tint my primer just a tad bit because I thought going from brown to white to green is just, that white is gonna be really hard to cover up with that green dark color. They said that they could tint the primer. I just got the right guy, I think, because he knew what he was doing and he knew what he was talking about. So what they did is they just added 3/4 of an ounce of black paint to the primer, and then that allowed it to get that grayish color. If you ask your people at your hardware store, they might say no, and I found out that the reason is because these cans aren't meant to be tinted or colored at all, and so they fill them up basically to the top with the primer, so there's not a lot of room to add color to tint. So it makes a lot of sense. Again, I just happened to get the right person to know and to try. So shout outs to Menards. Here is a local, more like a Midwest hardware store. So we're gonna get to priming. I'll not only be using a roller, but I'll also be using a brush to get into those spots where my roller can't reach. Okay, so I'm not quite done with the primer, but for this part I am. I'm gonna go check on those drawers that I put wood filler in. It should be dry by now, so we'll sand that down and do some primer on that. All right, so the wood filler is all dry to the touch and it's not squishy, it's hardened. So I'm gonna go ahead and sand it back. That way we can prime this, and hopefully this will make it flat and that there won't be any dents from those flowers. Okay, that really worked out well. There's just a couple of spots where I'm gonna have to get with probably just a paper, and then I'll just do a corner, but to get the little edges here, but this is nice and flat, and we shouldn't even be able to tell that it was there. So like I said, we are gonna be using the Melange paint for the very first time. So whenever I use a paint for the first time, I kind of like to know a little bit about it. I just went to melangepaints.com and I'm just gonna read a little bit about what or how to apply it to my piece best. It says, give it a good shake or stir. So you can use a little bit of water to thin it out. So I'll probably use my mister. It says most colors take 2 to 3 coats for full coverage, which is what I was assuming. So I'm probably gonna hopefully only need to do 2 coats. And we cleaned it, we sanded it, we even primed it. It says our paint is self-priming, so technically I guess I didn't need to do the primer, but I did. I'll know for next time. I guess I should have looked this up before I did that. It says, if you have a slick surface, you can use an adhesion primer, and then it'll also help with bleed through. So I guess I did do a good job by doing the primer. A stain blocking primer, yep. Cool. Basically like any other chalk paint. This isn't chalk paint, but it's an artisan mineral paint and it's water-based. So I will be able to use my little mister, which was my main question. So let's open it up and get started. I love their packaging. It's actually a very small business. I'm not too sure on how long they've been around, but I just kind of discovered them back in March. So I ordered this when their St. Patrick's Day 17% off sale, all their green colors. And as you can tell, they do handwritten labels. I don't know, it's fun. They're coming out with lots and lots of new colors as well. I think they've got about 48, but always adding colors. It's just a beautiful green. It's like a almost emerald green, but not quite. So I'm probably gonna put it in another container. That way I don't get it around this one, and I'll have a little bit of a bigger area to dip my brush in. I'm excited. Okay, let's go try it out. I always get so excited and just want to start painting, but I do want to sand down the primer just a tad bit to take away some of that texture. To do that, you just use a very fine grit sandpaper. This is a sanding sponge. Probably should have tried it without water at all, because it seems to be thin enough to not even need the water. Yeah, just really trying to be careful not to make any pools or drips of paint along this trim here, because those are no fun to deal with later once they dry. But I can tell you that I already love this paint. I like to experiment on different paints and let you guys know what I think of them, and this is definitely a must try for everybody. Let's try one drawer without the water. It goes on really smoothly without water as well, and then since we're in the sun, this is drying immediately. So I think I'll probably stick with not using the water, because that kind of dilutes it a little bit, and then the coloring is less pigmented, so I'll need more coats. So I'm gonna do no water for the rest of the dresser. First coat of the green is on, and I am going to let this dry, and I'm going to work on the other drawers so that I can add some more wood filler and let that dry so that we can get some paint on those drawers as well. Okay, so basically I'm just going to repeat the same process that I did before, except I'm going to try to go much thinner with the wood filler and just kind of do a top surface level layer. This also won't take as long to dry. That's just got to dry before we sand that down and give that some green paint. Now that we're back, this wood filler is dry, so we'll sand it down and get the first coat on these drawers, and hopefully it smooths out this time. All right, all good now. we are gonna go ahead and put some paint on these guys. And then while they'll dry, I will put the second coat on the rest. Coat number 2 is all finished up on all the parts of the dresser. So we've got to let that dry for a while. A little update about the Melange paint. I love it. I did not use the entire jar of this paint, so I've got a little bit left over. I wasn't sure just because I've never used it before, and this dresser was pretty big, but overall this paint is really awesome. First coat, I was kind of like unsure because there was brush strokes and things like that. But as I put the second coat on, it definitely leveled itself out, and I'm really pleased. It's still drying, obviously, so you can see the different shades, but I'm really pleased with the way that it all turned out. I've got about this much paint left of the 16 ounces that this mason jar is, so not too shabby in my opinion for a dresser. And I will have to get the cost on this because I can't remember. I bought it way back in March, so I'll check out their website and update you guys at the end of the video to tell you how much this was, but definitely worth the investment. I am gonna go clean some brushes. You guys wanna see how? All right, so we're in here in the kitchen, Mom's cooking, and I'm gonna show you how to clean the brushes. I gotta be really careful though, because if I get this paint anywhere other than the sink and I don't clean up my mess, Mom's gonna have my head, so. And basically what I do is I take the brushes and I go ahead and I just rinse them out first. I wanna try to get all that paint out. Earlier this paint was drying really fast in the sun, so this might color my brushes, which is fine. I'm just gonna kind of get as much as I can with hot water, as you can see, until that water kind of runs clear. At first, I don't use my hands because that water is way too hot. So then I turn the water down a little bit warm. And then I'll just take my fingers, kind of run them through. Okay, again, it colored the brush, but it's no big deal because it's not hard on there. It's not crusty, so this brush is still just like it was, but it's just colored. The bristles just got colored. Then I go ahead, take my Dawn dish soap, put that in the middle of my palm, and I take the brush and then I just rub it around and around. This should get some of the coloring out. And then we'll do the same thing with the other brush. All right, the water's basically running clear. And then I'll show you guys how I hang them up to dry. Okay, now we're just gonna hang them over here. I've got a little nail sticking out, and that's where I hang my brushes to dry. So washing brushes is not something that should hold you guys back from painting furniture. It's not that hard, but if that's what's holding you back and you don't want to clean it up, just throw the brush away, I guess. That would be another option. I used to do that, but now I've learned that it's really not that hard. I just got to do it. That's the only thing that I have a trouble with. Let's go check out the hardware. Alrighty, the hardware it is beautiful. I'm just gonna clean it up. We are gonna be using the gilding wax for the first time from Dixie Belle. It's gold, so I'm excited to try that out, give these a little bit of pizzazz. So I've got it all over here. I'm just gonna put it in a bucket of Dawn dish soap and warm soapy water. Alrighty, hardware is first step, I guess, is done. So we're going to let that dry for a while, and in the meantime, I'm gonna head back over to the dresser and we're gonna get a top coat on it. Okay, we're ready for the top coat, and I'm gonna be using Dixie Belle's clear coat in satin. And I didn't end up ordering any top coats from the Melange website just because I've got tons, so I wanted to try their paint before I went into their top coats as well. So I'm gonna use the satin. I just want a little bit of shine, not too much. I don't want to use glossy. And then flat, I just want to try the satin again. So we're gonna dump it into a new container here, clean container. I have seen some other furniture flippers recommend this, and what you do is if you're using a darker color paint, you can add just a tad bit to your top coat so that you can get less cloudiness and less streaky brush strokes than if you were just to do the top coat itself. So we're gonna add just a tad bit in there, mix it up. It'll look kind of funky, I feel like, because it's like I'm gonna be putting the green top coat on, but we're gonna give it a shot. See if this works. It looks funky. It's really important with the top coat that you don't let it bunch up in any areas and pool up, because then that will dry chunky. So you want everything to be nice and smooth. So like in here, just want to get that smoothed out there. First top coat is done. I'm just gonna do one on everything except the top. I'm gonna go ahead and do a second top coat when the first one dries. So right now we're just gonna let it dry. We are on coat number 2 on the top. Usually I do just one on the top, but I think I should probably start doing 2. Alrighty, that is all finished. Just gotta dry, and I'm gonna go check on the hardware. We're gonna go ahead and buff this out, which just means kind of go over it with a rag and it'll become a little bit more shiny. And then we'll be able to go ahead and put it on. Let's get all the excess off there. And then this doesn't need a top coat because it's wax, so it'll just stay. And after it cures, then there's no worry of it coming off. Kind of like the look that it's giving off where it's not completely covered, but it's like there's just still some areas that are that darker. So I was thinking it was a little bit of extra work to brush all that on here, but I'm liking the outcome of this, and I think I'm really gonna like it in or on the piece as well. So, all right, all these are buffed out. We gotta take the tape off the drawers, put the drawers in, and put the hardware on. I'm excited. All right, so I did one silly thing, and when I was putting wood filler on the front of this drawer, I covered up the hole for the hardware. So I'm gonna re-drill the hole. Let's get this gold hardware on now. Alrighty, the hardware is on. This is looking awesome. Wow, this green is bold. The gold brings it all together. I love it. This is a bold, bold, bold move for me. I have no idea how my market is gonna take this. I have not sold something like this before. We'll see. Well, we did it again. Posted it on Facebook Marketplace, and 12 hours later, someone had Venmo'd me the full price, and they are gonna be picking it up next week. I am so excited that my market took this well. I haven't taken down the post yet because I like to leave it up for a little bit longer just to gauge and see how many people are interested. And so then I'm just gonna keep saying pending pickup for a few more days. And that just allows me to gather what my market likes. So I've already gotten 3 or 4 other inquiries, and I've had to say pending pickup, but that's showing me that people enjoy this green and gold. So that gives me a little bit more room to be a little bit more bold. So that's what I mean when I say test your market. See what people like. I got full asking price of $450. So after paying $80 for this piece on Facebook Marketplace and spending $20 for the paint, I come away with a total profit of $350 for one dresser. Guys, it can be done. A full review of the Melange paint. I am in love with it. They have some amazing colors that you can choose from. They have the neutrals, but then they've also got the bold ones. And I have actually been in contact with Melange Paints, and they have graciously given me a code for you guys, FLIP10, to get a 10% off of your purchase when you use that code on their website when you buy any of their products. So be sure to head over there. It's a small business down in Texas, and guys, support small businesses. Melange Paints is an up-and-coming paint company, and I highly recommend their paints. So give it a try. And also the Surf Prep sander that I was using. This is my second time using the sander, and it has changed the speed of my process immensely. I know it's a little bit on the pricier side, but to me it is worth the investment. I'm gonna link it down below, and I've also got a code for you for the Surf Prep sander for 10% off if you use the code FFT10. So if you're interested in that Surf Prep sander, head down to the link below. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this flip, this trash to treasure. This guy was gonna go into the landfill. So I am so excited that I was able to flip it around and give it some new life, and it's going to a family, and I know that they are just going to enjoy it for years to come. Thank you for watching. Be sure to get subscribed down below to continue following us on our journey of flipping furniture and also learning a little bit as we go. Follow us on Instagram as well at Furniture Flipping Teacher, because we love sharing behind the scenes and photos and different things like that. And I'll see you on the flip side.